everybody. Hey everybody, it's Marisa Murgatroyd, founder of Live Your Message and Superhero Summits. I'm really excited to get started with the pre-hangout with 4 of our amazing author, speaker, coach superheroes. Today on the line we've got the lovely Jeanna Gabellini, we've got Sharla Jacobs, Christine Kloser, and Jeff Goins will be joining us a little bit later. So we are ramping up to the Author, Speaker, Coach, Superhero Summit, and we know that so many of you are authors and speakers and coaches, or speakers and authors, and there's just a lot of cross-fertilization between authors, speakers, and coaches. And we know that you want to fill your practice, you want to fill your events, you want to really get more people to buy your books, and that's why we're holding this summit, and it's happening in November 10th through the 21st. And if you want to get advanced registration and attend this summit for free and learn from the top superheroes in the world to help you sell your books and your products and your speaking gigs, then just right below this video you'll see a place to leave your email address, and that'll put you on the list to get the summit notifications. So let's just dive in with Miss Jeanna Gabellini. So Jeanna, do you want to come on?
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Excellent. So tell me, Jeanna, how did you get your start? Like, how did you go from being just a regular old proletariat civilian to becoming a superhero?
Well, I think I always had superpowers, but I didn't ignite them till later on. You know, I didn't give them the ignition. No, I started out as an entrepreneur by accident, and I was kind of lazy, really. At 20 years old, my mom said, "Hey, I'm starting this business with your brother." And I said, "Hey, how come you didn't ask me? I don't like to miss a party." And I just thought it was super fun. And then I went to a personal growth seminar later in life, and I thought, hey, I thought it was pretty good before this. I'm feeling really good now. And I started working for the company. I started coaching people. And coaching a lot of people for free. I didn't know that coaching was a thing. I didn't know it was a profession. And somebody told me about the Coaches Training Institute, and I thought, show me something I don't already know about this, because I got it going on. And they showed me a lot I didn't know. And I loved it. I thought, man, I want to do this. I got to go out and get clients right now. And that was it. I fell in love.
Nice. You said you were 20 years old when you started this journey to becoming a coach?
No, I was 20 when I started my businesses. I think I was 26 when I started coaching, and at that time there was no online anything. I didn't even know what email was. I really didn't. I struggled with getting on email. Technology is not my thing. But yeah, I was just like, oh, this is great. And at first I thought, it's cool to coach people in person, but then when everything went online, that just took it to a whole different stratosphere of being able to help people all over the planet, sitting in the comfort of your own home. Nothing beats that.
Nice. And what's something like we don't know about you? We want some juice on your superhero backstory. We know that superheroes have secrets and superpowers and all kinds of things. So what's something that we don't know about you?
Oh man, I used to be so uptight. Apparently I've let that go. But I remember this is the moment when my superpowers really ignited. And I used to teach live in-person workshops, cash flow workshops. And I was still in my 20s. And I had this hang up about being young. And I thought, oh, people are not going to listen to me because I am young. I'm kind of an old school part rocker chick, part goofy. Like, who's going to pay attention to me, especially around money? But I really knew my content. I knew I was a great coach. But I was so stiff because I thought, well, if I'm going to be in front of these people and I'm talking about money, I need to be professional, I need to be polished, and I need to look like I have my shit together. And so I was being a poser in a way. Even though I knew my content, I felt like I had to present somebody who they would take seriously, so I became serious. Since we're talking about a serious topic, money, right? And I went to a leadership seminar somewhere in there, and they said, hey, you're really quirky, and I think that you should bring that quirkiness when you're teaching. And the next time you lead a cash flow workshop, we want you to come from this place of quirkiness and just lay it on thick. And I thought, oh, hell no, I'm not doing that. There's no way. These people are going to think I'm a joker, and they're not going to like me, and they're definitely not going to buy my stuff. But, you know, it was a challenge, and I like a good challenge. And so I tossed out the suit. I put on a T-shirt. It had some crazy little slogan about money on it. I wore jeans. I put on some fun music that had to do with money. and I just let her rip. And I had so
So
much fun. I sold so much that night without even trying. I thought, screw the suit. I'm never putting it back on. And it's all about fun, because if I'm being authentic and having a great time and making this serious topic fun, then I think people are going to loosen up. They're going to have more fun. They're going to make more progress. And they did. And from that moment on, I thought, I got to bring in the fun to whatever I'm doing, because that's how I roll in my personal life. I don't know why I was doing this other serious thing in my business, because I thought, that's the way you got to be professional.
nice. That is a really, really good observation. I think so many people think that business has to be this box, And as soon as you just tear the lid off of that box, amazing things can happen, and people fall in love with you because you let them. You let them see who you really are.
I would see these people talk on stage who were very polished, and they had their shtick down, and I just knew I could never pull that off. So I thought, well, maybe I'm just not good on stage. But it was really that I'm just not good at on stage being rehearsed, and I'm better in the moment, having fun, engaging like we're doing here. I just do much better that way. And so I said, okay, great, let's tailor the business to that. Let's be natural. Let's go with the superpowers that I already have instead of trying to get the superpowers other people have.
Definitely. So what was the song about money that you played?
Oh my, I had probably about 50 CDs. I had a friend of mine, put it all together, and we just had this, ensemble, and we would do Money, 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 Pink Floyd. What else do we have? Anything that had to do with money, Pointer Sisters, we had it. Old school, new school.
Excellent. No school, yeah. All right, sweet. So I know that you are a coach and a masterful coach. And what is one very specific kind of actionable strategy that coaches can use right now to increase their success and have a more thriving practice? Something that maybe not everybody knows about. That's one of your mojo secrets.
So here's the deal. It's so simple, and it's so people might underestimate the power of it, so don't. It's one of those things, if you do it daily, it'll take you no more than 5 minutes, and it's going to change the way you operate your business. I call it a profit evidence log. You can just I don't care what you use, but write it down. You can use a Word doc, get a folder, get a notebook. Every day, challenge yourself to find at least 10 pieces of evidence that you are on the right track going towards profits. Now, a lot of people think that it's, evidence is when the money rolls in. And we know when you're setting up a business, there might be, you might be setting up for something that might have a big payoff later, but right now it's looking like a drought. Or, you had a few clients come on board, but you're having a little dry spell, and we make up that, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get clients again, or nobody's going to sign up for my thing, or, the party's over, I'm going to have to go get a job, because we're looking at all the reasons why we're not doing well, or we're comparing ourselves to our goal. Maybe, like in my case, I sell programs, I teach online, and if I have a goal of 100 people being in a course, and I've only got 10 sign-ups so far, immediately the head starts spinning about, oh my God, I'm not making new progress, and you start doing crazy stuff. You start talking to people with desperation. You start changing strategies that were not wrong. The strategies are fine. We just have to give it a little bit of time, right? Tweak them as you go if you find there's something really wrong. But what happens is if we don't have our mindset dialed into that we are making progress, we make very poor choices. We stop acting like a CEO, and we start acting like an employee scurrying around just, desperate. And so if you do this profit evidence log, you'll be looking at things like, 5 people signed up for my free opt-in today. Or, wow, I got an inquiry for a new coaching client. It doesn't matter if you got the client or not. It doesn't matter if someone bought anything or not, although that's really great evidence when they do. But to start looking for all the places you're making success and training your brain to look at what's the opportunity and what's working, because we play so much different when our head's on straight and we're thinking we're successful. You play successful when you think you're successful, and when you think that there's a dry spell, you start acting like a desperate, crazy person, and you take your CEO hat off, and you just do crazy stuff. I've done it. I know it. I'm caught to it. But it will change the way you make decisions. It'll make you feel good when you wake up in the morning, and you'll start seeing results. It's an easy one, underestimated, but do an evidence log, and you will change the course of your business, I promise you. I've had people do it and get amazing results in less than 2 weeks. Just do it consistently. It takes a few minutes.
Nice. And what's something that was on your profit evidence log this week?
Ooh, good question. You're good at this. You've done this before. Well, I had this, and sometimes this is it. It's a change of attitude. I've been stuck doing this marketing campaign for my membership, and I kept thinking, I really got to do that marketing campaign. Here I have this great program, and I'm not, consistently sending people to it. I know I got to do this. And I kept not being inspired, and I thought, girlfriend, you better sit your butt down and work on that. And I kept thinking, but I don't want to. Nothing in me is calling me towards this thing. So I said, let it go. So I was proud of myself. That was a piece of evidence when I let it go. And then about a week ago, I had this brainstorm about, I cannot stand the way this membership's laid out. I'm going to redo the whole thing. And all of a sudden I got excited and I said, ooh, 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 that is evidence right there. Because when you have a lot of energy behind something and you're excited about it, it's so much more easy to market it, and then you're attractive to your market because your energy's there. So that was a huge piece of evidence that I was so proud of myself for not forcing myself to get it done when there was some changes that needed to be made.
Awesome. Now, I know that you're going to be joining us in November on the Author Speaker Coach Superhero Summit, and I actually know that you're coming up first. You're right at the beginning of the summit on Monday, November 10th at noon Pacific. That's Monday, November 10th at noon Pacific. And the reason we put you first is because you're really going to help people get their mindsets on track. So everything else becomes easier when you've got your head on straight, like you said, and you're not acting like a crazy person. So give us no crazy. And can you give us a teaser about what you're going to be sharing? Like, what's the name of your presentation? What are you going to be talking about on November 10th? And why should people come?
This is one of my most favorite things to talk about. It's called the 6-step formula to doubling your profit. And it's lots of short, quick, simple, easy things you can do to get your head in the right place so that when you go out and you implement the strategies that you get from experts and other superheroes, that you'll be able to do it easy and you'll get the results that you want the first time. I mean, when it comes to making money, I think just about everybody they have some sort of hang-ups with money. We start making it hard. We talk about not liking sales. We don't like marketing. We're not good at it. You question your value. And this 6-step formula is going to it's all going to go away. You're going to be able to relax. You're going to feel like your own personal profit superhero. And I'm going to show you this one thing that takes just 5 minutes. And you are going to be able to tap into the mojo of what your ideal clients really want. And it will make you create products and programs and all sorts of cool ninja stuff that you hadn't created before because that's what your ideal market wants, and then how to tap into the energy that will most serve you when you're marketing so that people say yes immediately rather than, yeah, that looks good, but not right now. You want them to say, oh, hell yes, I need that right now, and that's what this formula is going to help you do. And it's not hard stuff. It's not stuff that's going to get your panties in a wad because it feels so scary. It's going to be fun and easy, and if it's not fun and easy, then that's usually evidence that you're actually going down the wrong path.
True that. I see I muted myself. I love it. Thank you so much. And what you're saying, you work a lot with coaches, but you also is relevant to everybody. It's relevant to the coaches, it's relevant to the authors, and it's relevant to the speakers. And we always want to start with a mindset piece to kind of open everybody up to a new way of looking at things because, success isn't necessarily doing the same things that aren't working, but making some shifts and trying some new things and being open to a different level and way to get to your success. So thank you so much, Jeanna, for coming on. I know you're traveling tomorrow, so I'm going to let you bounce.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, so next up we've got Sharla Jacobs. And before Sharla comes on, I want to quickly test Christine's sound because she's had trouble. Are you there, Christine? Oh no, no sound still. So Murray is going to work with you in the chat to figure out what could be going on with your sound. In the meantime, we're going to go to Sharla. So Sharla, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, hey, good to see you.
Good to see you.
And Sharla, by the way, thanked me for having wonderful boobs in her character.
Yes, it's funny because I actually, in the last 3 years, I lost about 65 pounds, and with it went my boobs, my big boobs I'd had all my life. So I could pretend I had a boob job, and Super fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Sharla, can you tell us a little bit about your story and your background and how you went from zero to superhero?
Yeah, you bet. You know, it's a funny thing. I often call Thrive Academy our accidental multi-million-dollar business, because if you had told me, 12 years ago, we've been doing this for almost 10 years, and if you had told me 12 years ago that my husband and I would be recognized authorities in the coaching industry and with holistic practitioners and coaches specifically, and that we would be pumping out transformational leaders like nobody's business, I would have secretly hoped you were right, but I wouldn't have believed you. Back then, let's see, so about 15 years ago, I graduated from acupuncture school, and I also, just like Jeanna, graduated from the Coaches Training Institute and got certified there as a coach. And I started my practice, and it took me about 5 weeks to figure out that just having business cards in an office wasn't going to get me clients. And so, I remember actually the time where I was making about $1,800 a month. Now, for some people, that's a lot, because I know in different parts of the country that's a livable wage. But where we live in beautiful Santa Cruz, California, that's not enough to get by on. And I remember the time, Marisa, that I was at the grocery store, and I was standing in the produce aisle, and I had an organic avocado in one hand and a conventional avocado in the other hand, and the extra dollar felt like a really big deal. And it was just such a confusing time for me, because I knew that I had these gifts. I knew that this was my dharma. It was what I was supposed to do in the world, but I didn't know a thing about how to get clients so that I could pay the bills. And so I was really struggling. And I met a friend who, he mentored people who were new in business, and he promised me that if I did his coaching program, that within 90 days I would triple my income. Now, I didn't know what the homework was when I signed up, and I was starting to put groceries on credit cards, so I actually borrowed the money from Jesse, who was not my husband at the time, and I decided to go for his program. Now, when he told me what the homework was, I almost fell off my seat, so you might be a little shocked. But in order to guarantee that I was going to triple my income in the 90 days of his coaching program, he asked me to commit to having 100 sales conversations a week. So that's conversations for business 5 days a week, right? And to be honest with you, so here's the thing. He was $600 a month to work with him, and I trusted him. He was somebody that I trusted. This was important. And it felt really scary to make this commitment, but I had already made the commitment to pay him for 3 months. And I knew that if I didn't take this step, that I was going to go back to having a job. And that wasn't going to work for me. So I just kind of swallowed and kind of, pulled up my bootstraps and went, okay, I'm going to go for it. And honestly, in truth, I really played full out, and I had about 12 conversations a day for business 5 days a week. That meant I went to every networking event I could possibly go to. I followed up with phone calls. And what happened in the process is that I learned a lot about what it means to have a conversation with a potential client, and what works and what doesn't work. And what this coach did for me is he helped me, we would do a little debrief of what was happening. And while I was going through this, Jesse still had a job at the time, and a job that he hated, and he was still in coach training. But while I was going through this coaching program, learning how to build my own practice, Jesse and I started, because I was such a geek about the 5 elements of Chinese medicine, which, by the way, I'm going to share a lot about the 5 elements when I have my superhero hangout, so I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. But we looked at what was happening in my sales conversations through the lens of the 5 elements, and how, because that's what the whole world was like for me, we looked at how the 5 elements were present in every heart selling conversation. And I just said, yes, I said heart selling, because what happened for us is, as we started to look at what was present in every conversation that went well, we saw that all 5 elements were present, and that if anyone was missing, it didn't result in a client, and often the conversation felt awkward or weird. So by the way, in those 90 days, that last month, the last 30 days of that month, my income was was $5,485 for that third month. So I did indeed triple my income, and that was really a good start to what ended up being, our first six-figure year, and then, many years later, we have impacted thousands and thousands of people. And so what happened for us is that, long story short, because there's a lot more to it, but the basics of the story are that after I tripled my practice, some friends that were coaches and practitioners, I'd been in practice for about 18 months or so on my own, doing well in my own practice. And Jesse and I had created a little community program trying to build practices and community together. And many friends and there were coaches and practitioners started asking us what we had done, because Jesse knew that he had mastered hard selling, which is like this divine download of our signature system that we're really known for. And he knew that he had mastered it when he got 16 new coaching clients in 1 month. So, so we just started sharing with a few friends, and next thing we know, we started getting those types of coaching clients, people that really wanted more business coaching and not as much life coaching. And of course, when you're a business coach, you still do life coaching, but that's the way it went for us. And I'll just say this is something that we share at our Client Attraction Summit. We share the story of how we led our very first live event for you speakers out there. And this was in 2005, I want to say. 2004. Sorry, 2004. We led our very first live event, and we led a couple little workshops in our living room and at the little, yoga center and that kind of a thing before. But this was our first big workshop, and we invited everyone we knew, and we actually asked for referrals, which is a nice little tip there. We asked for referrals because we were so specific about what we were offering. And our very first workshop, we had 94 people registered. We had 88 people show up, and we made $33,000 in sales. And so that honestly was really the start of the movement that is called Thrive Academy today. And since that time, we've taught over 25,000 people our step-by-step system to attract as many clients as you want. And the thing I'm proudest of is that I know that we are, if you look at a lot of the up-and-coming transformational leaders today, you'll find that many of them made their first six figures when they were studying with us. So that's what we're most proud of. We know that as we impact people, as we teach our systems, that more people are impacted.
Okay. Christine, I think that's you. I think your actually sound is working on potentially both computers, which is awesome. So anyway, that's fabulous. Did you finish your backstory?
I think that's good enough. There's a lot more I could tell you as it goes, but it's really just a divine accident. I think that this isn't my tip, but I will say that you never know what the universe has in store for you. And I feel, in a lot of ways, I love that I'm Wonder Woman for the Superhero Summit. We actually just led a Client Attraction Summit in Los Angeles, and I just started producing videos. Now, they're homemade videos, by the way. These are not professionally produced videos. And I felt like I was received as if I was a movie star. And it was the coolest thing to feel loved, and for people to be so excited to meet me in person after having an engagement through video. So it's really like a dream. And the coolest thing, I'll tell you this, Marisa, the coolest thing is that I work about 15 hours a week. And, besides our live events that we do, about 15 hours a week, and I get to spend a lot of time with our young children. We have 2 boys. They're 3 years old and 6 years old. And I get to be a mom and, hang out in my yoga pants and work from home and really take care of the things that really matter most to me. And it's a really blessed life. So I can wish that upon anybody here. You've got that dream of being a speaker, author, coach. You already are doing it. To have the level of success that the universe wants for you, that you can really create your life however you want it.
I love that. And what's something that we might not know about you?
Well, many people don't know, and those who come to the Client Attraction Summit do know my story about this, but I have some quite a diverse background. So I have been both, I'll tell you a few things about me. I have been captain of my high school dance team, a bartender, and a Buddhist monk in one lifetime. So probably the thing that people are most curious about is I lived at a Zen monastery for 3 months in silence with no eye contact. And honestly, you know, when I went to live at the monastery, it was one of those things that people would say, "Oh, you're going to be so enlightened." They have no idea what it's like to be in silence with no eye contact. It was one of those things that honestly was probably one of the hardest times in my life, and not something I would necessarily volunteer to do again. But it gave me a lot of strength within myself that I still call upon all the time, and so I wouldn't take it back for anything.
Awesome. And I know you still dance from the stage sometimes at your live events.
I do. Occasionally you might catch a performance on stage.
I think I've caught a performance.
What's that?
I've caught a performance. I
Yeah.
saw you dancing. You got some moves.
Right. Yes, yeah. I'm occasionally I will perform on stage, and we got to be able to fit it in. You know, we have a huge curriculum. For the last 10 years, we've been leading almost 18 live events a year, and you know, there's a lot of content to get in there in our trainings, and so occasionally we can fit in a little performance. And I mean, we always are entertaining and having fun, but you know, sometimes it's a little extra.
Definitely. So what is one really specific kind of actionable strategy that coaches can use now to, you know, become more successful, get more clients, really have the business that you have right now?
Yes, well, there's so much I could say. I'm going to share a little bit about what's going to happen on my Hangout, and ask you to show up to really get the mindset and context about it, because part of what I'm going to share on my Hangout is how to go beyond the money concern. Now, a lot of sales trainings that they used to teach to insurance men in the 70s might call this overcoming the money objection, but we teach heart selling, not hard selling, so we change a lot of the language. So I'm going to actually share a question that you can ask, because it really is it's kind of the frame, like not the framework, but it's a way of thinking about the money concern, so you really get that it's usually not about the money. Again, I'm going to give you a bunch of questions and the context and the mindset during my Hangout, but I want to give you one question that you can ask when someone says they'd like to work with you but money is an issue. And again, it's really a context for what the whole conversation is about. And the reason why you want to ask this question is it does something very important in the conversation. When you are having a conversation with a potential client and they are leaning in, and that's an actual distinction, somebody leaning in to work with you. You can feel that, even if it's over the phone, you can feel it. They're leaning in and they want to work with you, but you share your rates and they say, "Oh, I can't afford that, that's too much," or something along those lines. So there is a really powerful question that you can ask, and what it does is it moves the money out of the way so you can be with them, instead of having this whole money thing in front of you. And often money is a smokescreen. A lot of times people use money just as a way to be nice. Maybe there's something else going on, and I'll be talking about that in my Hangout, so more to come on that. But here is the question, and I want you to use this next time somebody says they'd like to work with you but money is an issue. The question is, if it wasn't for the money, is this something you would want to move forward with? If it wasn't for the money, is this something you would want to move forward with? And what this does is it moves the money out of the way, and now you can be with them, and you can really find out if there's something underneath. And sometimes it's something else. Sometimes it really is money, and you might brainstorm, you might find a way. Again, I'll give you some more about this during my Google Hangout, but it really helps you decide it, figure out if it really is their perception that it is the money. And it also honors that they have a valid concern. So you ask that question, and then and then I'll tell you kind of the rest of what happens on my Hangout. But I think even just using that right now, you get into basically a whole new coaching conversation around working together. That's really powerful.
That's a really good one. Thank you so much for sharing that. And now you've kind of hinted at what you're going to be presenting at the Superhero Summit. I would love to know. I think we got it all of a sudden. Hold on. It's Christine. Yeah, we're just going to... Okay, great. Sorry. All right. So, yes, on the Superhero Summit, I know that you're going to be going up on Wednesday, November 12th at noon Pacific. That's Wednesday, November 12th at noon Pacific. Can you share kind of what you're going to be teaching at the Superhero Summit and why people should come out and join?
Yes, absolutely. So the topic of my hangout is attract clients without struggle. And I'm going to specifically get into some strategy and some actual scripts and conversation starters and questions that you can ask, as well as the mindset of when someone says, I can't afford it, how to go beyond that. Now, I've given you one question, but I have a lot more for you. So hang in there. You know, there's a lot that can happen. We only had a few minutes today, but I want to give you more during that time together. I'm going to share with you, I'll share my story again in case you missed some nuggets there, and how really what was the thing that we mastered that had us go from zero to $175,000 in our very first year of working together, you know, my husband Jesse and I. And I'm going to share 3 of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of coaches make when trying to start their business or when trying to get clients. And I'll share some tips and strategies around how to feel great about how much you charge, as well as some of the magic questions to answer that, you know, to dance with the concern, I can't afford it. So much more, I promise.
Well, you are the real deal, and I know you've got a ton of value, a ton of great stuff to teach everybody. So thank you so much for coming on the Author Speaker Coach Superhero Summit. We're really excited for your presentation.
I'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Hey, Jeff. And Christine, do you want to just see if your sound is working and your vision is working?
Is my sound working?
Your sound is working. There's a little bit of an echo. Yay! The only problem is it's a little bit of an echo because I think maybe you don't have headphones, so. So yeah, I think that's the only issue is the echo. Okay, well actually I don't have the echo anymore. Can you speak? Are you still able to speak? But your picture's gone off as well. So I'm going to go to Jeff, Christine, and maybe we can keep working with Murray really fast, and we'll get you set up. So sorry.
Let me just check. Can you hear me with the headphones?
Yeah, actually the echo is gone. We just don't see you. Could you?
You just don't see me. Okay.
Yeah. Do you have the picture? Like, because we did see you before.
I know. I have the picture loaded. I'm not sure what's going on. I'll try it again.
So we've got your sound going now, but the picture will come back. All right.
All right.
So in the meantime, hey Jeff. Are you there? Okay, actually, I can't hear you now. So, Jeff, there's a cog. There's like a little cog, settings cog, at the top of your screen, and be sure to choose the input, the mic input that you're going to use. So, under settings, basically, you can choose, you know, whatever microphone, or even your internal microphone, so we can hear you. All right. Well, luckily this time around we didn't really publicize the session because we're having lots of tech trouble, which is good. This is why we do the test, partly to get lots of juicy information from you all, but also partly to work out whatever kicks might be happening. So, what's going on for you, Jeff? Do you have any kind of mic input? Do you have any, you can also type, Jeff, in the chat. If you see on the left of your screen, there's a little chat icon. If you click that, we're actually can type notes to each other. So do you have a microphone, like an external microphone? No, I see you've got some headset. There you go. And the only thing that maybe needs to happen is to go to the settings cog and make sure it's pulling from the right mic input. Hey, Christine.
Hey, can you hear me too?
I can hear you and I can see you. Yay!
It's a good thing I'm much better at helping authors write their books and get them out in the world than I am at technology. Man, this is kooky.
Yeah, well, not to worry. You're on live now and we can see you great, so it's all good, right?
Yeah.
All right. So Jeff, we're going to go to Christine next, and if you open the chat box, Murray, my husband, is in there, and he's going to help you figure out the audio issue so we can hear you. And you might need to kind of reboot or restart or something like that as well. All right, Christine. So, there you go.
Can you see my Jeannie character now too?
I can see your Jeannie character. So you are,
Okay.
you're looking hot, looking really
Oh,
good. Excellent.
it's good to be here, finally.
I know. Well, this is why we do these tests, because it's much better to have the tech problems now than when we're live with 500 people on the line.
Absolutely.
Yes, and it's good to get kind of familiar with the technology. And of course, once we add slides, it's a whole nother element. So yeah, go ahead, Jeff. We'll see you when you get back. So Christine, tell us, how did you go from being a regular old person to being the superhero that you are today? Like, what's your story and your background?
Oh, the story looks something like this. It certainly wasn't a straight rise. It was following a continual, relentless urge and pulse and drive to continue to always discover what's next. And whether it was our highest high, having a $500,000, revenue weekend, or my lowest low in losing my whole house, going through bankruptcy, completely shutting down and losing a business and being on my knees. I just kept going. And the best success I've had is always when I've followed the deepest, purest, like flash moment of inspiration and ran with it. So that's how I got here now, training over 55,000 transformational authors since 2011 because of a moment of inspiration that I carried out into the world in a way that really helps people write, publish, and promote their transformational books. So it's been a journey, to say the least, that's for sure.
Nice. And can you share with us what that moment of inspiration was?
Yeah, it was not a very pretty moment of inspiration. I was literally on my knees, on the floor, had already been through the entire box of Kleenex, kind of angry at where I was, but really sincerely begging to be shown how I was meant to be used. Like, I didn't go through everything I would go through. I'm not here with the successes and the failures and the wisdom and the growth and the transformation to stop at this point of the line, but I don't know what's next. And I just literally begged for clarity and guidance and to be shown. Because when you go through what I went through, losing everything, I was really disoriented. I knew I had a great purpose, but it was in that moment that, this was early 2011, it was in that moment that I kept hearing this name for an event that I had come up with in 2010, but every one of my professional business colleagues and marketing geniuses nixed that title that I had and said it was horrible, that no one would ever buy it. But that moment, that morning, those tears, the sincerity of that request and prayer for clarity, it pressed that name, which was Transformational Author Experience, so hard. Like, I knew that I had to ignore what everyone else said and do what felt right for me, right? Truth was, I had nothing to lose. I had already lost it all. Like, there was no lower that I could go, so why not follow my inspiration? And in less than 90 days, I was training 10,000 authors in the very first Transformational Author Experience. So my moment of inspiration was more like a bargaining session with who and what I understand a higher power to be, begging to be shown. And, when I was shown, I responded quickly. And like I said, we've since reached over 55,000 transformational authors around the world with the training that was inspired, in that box of tissues on the ground.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you lost your house, you lost everything.
I did.
And out of that.
Yeah. And that's why, like, my background's really playing, because we actually just 3 years later were able to buy a beautiful 4,500 square foot home on nearly an acre of land. We have a garden, we have fruit trees, we've, gutted and redone all the bathrooms and, like everything. But my office, as you can see behind me, it's not quite yet decorated. But anyway, yeah, so miracles happen, and for me it really started with that inspiration and a real clarity of who I wanted to serve, how I wanted to serve them, and really tapping into my genius as a transformational book coach.
Amazing. And what's something that we don't know about you? I mean, that was a moment in time that we don't know, but what's something might surprise us?
Oh, I'm going to go back about, 30 years. When I was graduating high school at the age of 17, I was accepted to tour with the Ice Capades. I was a competitive figure skater growing up. And I remember one night I had just seen my high school boyfriend, who was like a basketball star. We saw his game. And then we drove down to the Hartford Civic Center in West Hartford, Connecticut at 10 o'clock at night, where they were holding auditions for the Ice Capades. And I was accepted to tour, and I decided I was not a very good student. I was about as good at school as I am with technology. But I wasn't a good student, and my number one school was kind of a reach. And I said, okay, if my number one school doesn't accept me, I'm going to go on tour with the Ice Capades at the age of 17 instead. And then, because of the whole Ice Capades escapade, I think the person who interviewed me at the school that I was not a qualified student for, she must have been a closet fantasy figure skater, because all we talked about in my college interview was the Ice Capades and the world of competitive figure skating. And I got accepted to the school, so I never, lived out of a suitcase. At least on ice skates. I lived out of a suitcase for a few weeks dancing around Europe when I was also 17, so that might be something else you don't know about me.
Awesome. So you're a competitive figure skater and a dancer?
Yeah, I danced competitively. You're actually talking to the 1994 national first place Smooth Steppin' Showdown two-step champion. Believe it or not. I was a big country western dancer. And it was funny because after that, when I owned a yoga studio and ran a yoga studio in LA, after my country western escapade, I ended up actually teaching Reba McEntire yoga lessons. Her and Charlie Rose were some of my students. And the very first country western concert I ever saw was Reba McEntire, and here she was in my studio, getting private lessons. It was hysterical and really fun. So yeah, that was a whole wild, fun phase of my life.
Awesome. The thing that amazes me most is that the most successful entrepreneurs that I know have had so many different lives and so many different careers and so many transformations, and it's just that creativity to keep trying new things, and then eventually one of those things makes it really big and people really resonate with it.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. So what's one really specific kind of actionable tip for authors who are trying to get their book written or trying to get their book published and marketed and into people's hands that they can start to implement right away?
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you one of the most important exercises that every author needs to do. I call it the 250 most important words you'll ever write, and that is your back cover copy. I can't tell you how many authors, at least the ones that haven't come and trained with me, they write their entire book, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 words, and they actually can't describe and succinctly and clearly communicate what the book is about. It's one of the biggest mistakes I see authors make. So before you go way down the road, I even tell my clients to write their back cover copy before they write their manuscript. You're just going to put a headline at the top, a few descriptive paragraphs, some real, benefit-laden bullet points, and maybe a short little bio, 75 to 100 words about you, and that's your back cover copy. And if you can't write the back cover copy, there's a good chance that you're not as clear about your book as you need to be in order to write the best book for you and for your readers. So please don't leave the back cover copy until the very end of the process. Do it in the beginning. Let it be part of your solid foundation, and it will last you and carry you and make such a difference as you move into bringing that book into the world, marketing it, booking interviews, speaking gigs, being able to clearly communicate about your book. Those 250 words on the back cover are going to be some of the most critical words that you actually write.
Wise words, really, really, really good words. It's like having an outline before you create a product, You've got or a blueprint before you build a house, or wireframes before you make a website,
Yes.
It's pretty important stuff, and especially to be able to sell it and know that people are going to want it. Awesome.
Yeah.
So I know you're coming on the Superhero Summit on Thursday, November 13th at noon Pacific. That's Thursday, November 13th at noon Pacific. Can you give us a little tease about what you're going to be talking about and why we should come out and check you out?
Well, we're going to be covering a lot of information, but if you are one of those people who has had an idea, this inspiration, this seed of a book in your heart, in your mind, in your soul, in your being, and it's not yet on the page, and you haven't written it, then you absolutely want to come, because we're going to cover what some of the blocks are that actually keep you from writing that book, and I'm also going to give you some very practical, tactical steps that you can take, like the importance of index cards when you're writing your book. You can create your entire outline on index cards, and I'm going to show you how to do that when we get together on the actual full training that I'll be doing for the Superhero Summit. So if your brain's kind of a fog and you're sort of cluttered and it's not flowing like you want it to flow, then just come here and we'll help you get started. Perhaps I have a feeling that many of you, by the time that we're done with that training, will actually have written some content for your book right on the spot. So I hope you'll join me, because we're going to have a blast and your book is going to get unleashed.
I like it. So definitely that's something you're going to want to see. If you've ever thought about writing a book but haven't done it yet, or you have written a book and you might want to write another book, Christine's really got the tips to help you get that book done and out. So thank you so much for coming on. And so glad we got you here, your picture and your sound and everything else.
Me too. Thank you for bearing with me. Like I said, I'm way better at coaching authors than I am at figuring out technology.
Not to worry. We figured it out in the end, which is all that counts.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Christine.
You're welcome. Thank you. See you guys in November.
See you. All right. Next up, we've got Jeff Goins. So Jeff is a really amazing guy that I met recently. And do you want to see if you can, if you've got sound first, Jeff? Are you talking? Okay. So let's get you some sound. Not to worry. We actually didn't really publicize this particular event, which is happens to be the one that we're going to have all the tech troubles on, so it works out. So Jeff, you tried headsets. Maybe you should try without your headset and just use your internal microphone for now. Are you on a Mac or a PC? Sorry, I couldn't read your lip on that one. You do have the best hair, by the way, and Jeff's character is from Harry Potter, and he actually looks identical to Jeff. They're really doppelgangers for each other. It's Ron Weasley, so Jeff looks just like Ron Weasley. All right, so that's not working either. Did you go to the settings cog and make sure to choose the right input? Because if you just plug it in and it's not chosen, sometimes that doesn't work.
Let's try this.
Oh, yay!
Can you hear it?
I can hear you.
I don't know what's going on. That was weird.
Yeah. Well, we got it going now, which is all that matters.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was just using, I was using these crappy headphones, so that's probably
Yeah, I've got these crappy headphones, but they're only for sound, and so I have another
I know,
microphone plugged in.
Yeah, so sorry, I don't know what's going on.
No worries.
Hello, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, and man, that was so great listening to Christine. I was like, yeah, I need to like write the back cover copy of my book before, like the night before it's due, which so like I already learned something.
Awesome, and you're quite a writer, I know. So can you tell us how you went from being just a regular old, proletariat to being a superhero?
Yeah, for sure. I'll tell you my story of how I came out of being a prole, as they would say in 1984. So about 3 years ago, I had a conversation with a friend where he asked me what my dream was, and I was really sort of skeptical about that kind of talk. I was a practical guy. I had a good job, and I was like, I don't need this, It sounded childish to me. But secretly, inside, I had something that I wanted to do that I wasn't doing. I just wouldn't admit it. So he kind of pulled that out of me, and I said, yeah, I guess someday I'd like to be a writer. And he just looked at me, and he said, Jeff, you don't have to want to be a writer. You are a writer. You just need to write. And those simple words kind of catapulted me into one of the most craziest years of my life, where I had a child. I wrote a blog every day for a year, wrote over 100 guest posts and some magazines. I ended up getting a book published, replaced my income, replaced my wife's income, and my wife quit her job, and I quit my job, and then kind of launched out into becoming this full-time author and writing coach. And it seemed to happen kind of quickly. All of that happened in about 18 months. But I had dreamed of doing something like this for like a decade, and it all happened fairly quickly once I had decided this is who I want to be, this is who I want to be, but I need to start living into that reality now. So, I mean, it's, like I'm a pretty practical guy. I'm not like, this esoteric hocus pocus kind of dude, but it's amazing what a change in mindset can do, and I'm still amazed at it.
I love it. I know you, a lot of people think that you can't make a living as a writer, but you have shown them that you can, right?
You absolutely can, yeah, and you can do that in fiction, you can do that in nonfiction, you can do that telling stories, writing memoir, you can do that writing, business books. You absolutely can.
Awesome. So what is one very specific, well, actually, before I go into that, what's something that we don't know about you?
Well, I'll say two things. Christine, I'm going to kind of jump off of hers. So you might know this, Marisa, because I think we talked about this, but something that most people don't know is that I spent a year out of college traveling with a band all over the country, and we were a big deal in Taiwan. Now, like in Nebraska, California, Massachusetts, Florida, nobody could care less about us. But in Taiwan, we got noticed on the streets. We played all of these like girls' nursing schools, and we were big with the Taiwanese, teenage nursing students. Yep.
And what was the name of your band?
That doesn't matter.
Now you gotta say.
So the second thing I'll say is I am really good. I'm humble about this, but I am really good at making homemade guacamole.
Holy guacamole!
Yeah, like exceptionally good at it. I'm pretty good at it.
Awesome. Did you make some for the Taiwanese nursing students?
I didn't. That was a skill that I cultivated later in life.
Okay, you would have been a huge hit if you had.
I'm sure.
Nice. So what is one very specific actionable strategy for authors or people who just want to write or blog to get started and really start seeing success from it?
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm going to talk about at the summit is we're going to talk about blogging and how I built this blog of over 100,000 readers in about 18 months. And I believe as a writer that the audience comes first. That you need to write what resonates with you, but you have to be focused on your readers. And so when I got started, I realized I'd been writing in anonymity for years, and the difference between a professional writer and an amateur writer, honestly, is one has an audience. And so you need to write like a professional with the mindset that somebody's going to read this at some point. So a practical tip, one very important practical tip that I think will immediately begin to set your work apart as a blogger, as a writer, as a content creator, speaker, whatever. Like, you need to have a blog. You need to be putting your content out there if you want to attract an audience. And it's very hard to build a business or get paid or do anything if you don't have people that want what you have. So I knew this kind of early on, and so when I started blogging, I was sort of like frustrated and flustered because there were so many people talking about so many things. What was going to make me stand out? And I learned a lesson that I think is really important. I learned that what you say isn't as important as how you say it, which sounds, maybe like a little bit heretical as a writer, because what you say does matter, but the problem is there's like a million other people saying the things that you're saying. So how do you stand out from the rest? So, you need to be saying good things, you need to be creating great content, but that's not enough. You have to apply a worldview to your writing. And what does that mean? Well, worldview is the way that you view the world. It's your unique perspective, and it is the thing, I believe, that sets the world's most successful communicators. I'm talking speakers, writers, coaches, people that have a message to share. This is what sets them apart from everybody else. So practically, how do you find your worldview? I would suggest 3 quick tips. Pick a fight. So find something that you disagree with And like, you know, like don't go like beat somebody up literally, but like pick a fight with an issue, with an idea, something that's wrong or broken in the world or just in your industry, then write about it. My favorite way to do this is in a form of a manifesto. That could be a blog post, it could be an ebook, but something short and shareable that says, hey, who else thinks this thing is wrong and who wants to be a part of fixing this with me? And then lastly, you see what resonates. So you pick a fight, you put it out there, and then you see what resonates. And if it resonates, if people go, yeah, like that makes me mad too, then you have the beginning of a tribe. You're starting to build your audience, and you can go places with that. If you don't, then you got to try it again. You have to pick another fight and go through that process. But this, I think, truly is what makes people like Seth Godin, it's what makes authors like Brene Brown, it's what makes them so successful, is they're not just creating content, they're writing with a worldview, and it happens to resonate with people where they go, yeah, that is true. And it's usually framed in some sort of, like, everybody says this, but I say this. Or people tell you this, but this is actually true. It's a little bit counterintuitive. And that, I think, is one of the best ways to begin to attract attention to your message so that you can make your mark on the world.
I love it. Totally, totally agree. I love to debunk myths all the time. And what about you? What is the biggest fight that you've ever picked? What is the biggest worldview that you've ever postulated?
Well, that argument in of itself is sort of like, you know, a big fight that I pick where people go, no, like content is king. But I think one of the fights that I picked, and this sounds sort of like contradictory to the advice that I just gave, I wrote my first manifesto, which led me over the week. I published it from having 75 email newsletter subscribers to having over 1,000, and that grew into, you know, tens of thousands and on and on. But that for me was one of the initial tipping points of building a tribe, and it was a short manifesto called the Writer's Manifesto. And basically, the argument that I postulated was writers don't write to get published; they write for the love of writing. And you know, there's all kinds of, you know, implications in that we could talk about. But that little statement, I mean, it set a lot of people free because so many writers like, how do I get published? How do I make money? And what I found is that your audience is most affected by you and your words when you're writing the stuff that really matters to you. So it is this sort of, you know, relational transaction where you're writing what resonates with you, but what also resonates with other people. But that's, you know, one of the biggest fights I picked.
I love it. Do you mind if we reprint that in the
oh, yeah, sure.
playbook entry?
Absolutely, yeah.
Good example? Great.
Yeah, good call.
Excellent. So you're going to be going up on the Superhero Summit on the second week. You are in on Thursday, November 20th at noon Pacific, Thursday, November 20th at noon Pacific. So what are you going to be talking about? Like, can you tease your presentation and let us know why we should come out?
Absolutely. So, you know, what I just shared will be part of that, and, you know, I'll go into way more detail. But the subject is, the title is How to Build a Massive Blog, 4 Keys to Attracting 100,000 Fans and Sharing Your Message with the World. So, I'll be talking. Those 4 keys are basically finding your voice, building a platform, expanding your reach, and then finally getting published. And so I'll talk about my whole journey and the journey that I've literally walked thousands of other people through that have allowed them to reach an audience with their words, that have led to people, you know, quitting their jobs, becoming full-time authors, you know, doing really great stuff. But for me, that's not the goal. That's the byproduct. The goal is finding a way to get your words to reach people, because once you have that connection, you can build a business, you can write a book, you can just put your words out there and know that they're affecting people. But until you have that connection with an audience, until you have that tribe, you know, it's kind of worthless to talk about what am I going to write about for my book, or what am I going to put on my blog, because nobody's going to be listening. So we're really going to be talking about specifically what I've done and what I've helped other people do in terms of building an online audience that gets you to your goals faster.
I love it. Awesome. Well, I get to be at all the presentations, luckily, because I'm hosting in my superhero suit. Yes. And you have a really awesome character. I hope you had a chance to see it with Ron.
Yeah, it's great.
As Ron Weasley. So thank you so much for coming out. Really, really appreciate it. I'm super stoked to kind of feature you on the summit and share you with our tribe. So see you in a couple of months.
Thank you, Marissa. See everybody there, and thanks so much. Have a great evening, morning, wherever you are.
Thank you. Bye. Go out there and live your message.